The first thing I looked at that morning was not the sun, not my coffee, and not my wife. It was a text message from Jake. My wife does not want you there. She says you are pathetic. I am sorry. This was hard for me. That was it. A wedding day message from the boy I had raised since he was 8. The boy I sat beside on nights he threw up from the stomach flu. The boy I helped through math meltdowns. The boy who got knocked silly on the football field and needed rides to the doctor. The boy I bought a second-hand Toyota Camry for. I even replaced the alternator myself. His biological father showed up twice in 12 years and still somehow got a chair at the wedding. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not in shock. Not even in heartbreak. I just went still, like my body was waiting for orders that my brain had not written yet. No address. No invitation. No. Hey, we are eloping. No. Hey, I am sorry it turned out this way. Just one line and a little passive-aggressive sign-off. Hope you understand. Hope I understand. I set the phone on the table. Not a slam. Just careful, like the thing had turned radioactive. I went to the den and dropped into the leather armchair he and I built together during a weekend-long woodworking class. I remember how he sanded those armrests like they were being sent to the Louvre. On the wall, the diploma I framed and hung for him after graduation still leaned crooked. I had left it that way for months because he said it gave the room character. I stared at that tilted frame without blinking. My wife, Melissa, came in halfway through brushing her hair. She did not speak. She hovered like she thought I might explode or cry or ask why. I did none of those things. I did not even look at her. I think it was the quiet that rattled her most, the absolute lack of reaction. "Mike, are you okay?" she asked, soft and careful, like I was a toddler just waking up. I kept my eyes on the diploma. She glanced at it, then back at me. She wore the necklace I gave her for our anniversary 2 years ago, one of those infinity knots that is supposed to mean something poetic. The clerk had told me it symbolizes no end. Right then, it looked more like a noose. She waited like she had more to say, then walked out. You know what is strange? More than 90% of people who follow stories like this, quiet explosions that go off in regular houses, never subscribe or support the work. If you are still listening, think about it. It keeps these stories alive. It keeps a small team going. And it means more than you might guess. Anyway, I did not go to the wedding, obviously. But I also did not leave the house. I did not play golf. I did not go fishing. I did not call a buddy to get drunk and rant. I did not make a scene. I made a decision. I poured a cup of coffee in the kitchen and headed to the garage. That is where the old boxes sit, the ones marked in black permanent marker, stacked near the water heater, wearing so many cobwebs you would think they did not matter. They did. To me, they did. One box read, Jake, college, estate, travel. I eased it down like it was an artifact. I already knew what was inside, but I needed to see it again, to touch it. I wanted the feel of every receipt, every notarized paper, every tuition check with my full name signed in cursive at the bottom. The soccer camp schedules, the insurance policy numbers, the prom tuxedo rental, the emergency dentist bill, the bank forms naming me as the guarantor. Not the biological father, but everything else that counted. And they did not even have the decency to send me a paper invitation. What broke me was not being left off the guest list. It was the message underneath it, that I was only a bank account with a soft heart, that I would take the punch and nod like a good little backup father. Pathetic. That word stuck. That is what they think when the doors are closed. My wife must have heard it and let it go. Maybe she said it first. There is a kind of anger that never yells. It does not slam doors or throw glasses or snap remotes. It tightens. It gathers. It waits. That is the kind I felt, because they figured cutting me out would be harmless. Free. No cost. They thought I was too old, too soft, too safe to be any trouble. They forgot who strung up the safety net they walk on. They did not know the man they called pathetic still held the scissors. The garage smelled like cardboard, dust, motor oil, and the slow rot of forgotten things. I stood just inside the door with the lights off. A single stripe of early sunlight cut across the concrete. Dust drifted through it like little ghosts. The shelves were still lined the way I left them 5 years ago, after I finally got tired of Melissa reorganizing my workspace every other weekend. Bins, boxes, tubs, thick black letters on every label, camping, old tax documents, Christmas outdoor lights. I saw it right where I remembered it. One box on the top shelf with a lid a little bent and the words, Jake, college, estate, travel. I reached up and took it down. It was not heavy, though it felt like it should have been. I set it on the workbench and peeled the lid open, one corner at a time. There they were. Tuition receipts, stacked and banded in order. First semester to last. The University of California, Los Angeles on the earliest ones, freshman year. Then transfer paperwork to a smaller liberal arts college when Jake said he did not want to feel like a number. Each transfer cost more, by the way. Housing changes, application fees, scholarships lost forever. I did not complain. I told him, follow what feels right. We will figure out the rest. Under that, I found printouts for 4 spring break trips: Rome, Amsterdam, Tokyo, and Ibiza. I remembered hearing him tell a friend that I was old-fashioned and would not understand that Generation Z needs culture. Maybe I am old-fashioned, but my credit card number understood just fine. It paid in full every single time. Then came the car folder. That tired old Toyota Camry. I paid $3,400 in cash for it. I changed the timing belt with my own hands. I put in new brake pads every year. One time he blew a tire doing donuts in the high school parking lot. I told him I was proud he at least knew what a donut was doing to a tire. We laughed about it then. The box was a time capsule of quiet giving, pages and printouts that said, one way or another, Dad paid. Not a single thank you note. Not even a messy birthday card. But the real treasure was not in the cardboard. It was on my laptop. I took the laptop into the kitchen, poured a whiskey even though it was not quite noon, and opened it up. I unlocked the encrypted folder I had made years back when I first started managing Jake's school and estate accounts. The password was simple and personal: his birth year and the street number of the house where he grew up. Inside were the trust documents in portable document format. One line always stood out to me like a flare in a blackout. The grantor reserves full discretion, including the right to revoke the principal, reassign distribution, and change the beneficiary terms. Plain English, it is mine. All of it. I could freeze the trust. I could drain it. I could move it elsewhere. I could donate the entire thing to a community garden if that is what I wanted. Then I clicked into the travel folder. There it was, 5-star hotel in Santorini. The kind with a private infinity pool and a spa and those candlelight dinners that lean right into the sunset. Booked under my name. Paid in full 6 months ago as a surprise. Their flight left in 3 days. I sat back and rolled the glass in my hand. The whiskey caught the sunlight and threw little amber ribbons across the counter. I did not feel angry. Angry would have been easier. This was not a storm. This was old wood groaning under weight. What they never understood, what they never even tried to ask, was what all of this cost. Not just my wallet. My place in the family. I gave them a home. I gave him a father. Not perfect. Not loud. But steady and present and dependable. The kind of man who drives to 3 different pharmacies to find the right allergy medicine. The kind of man who shows up at every graduation. Even the short little coding boot camp that set me back $2,000 and got him nothing. You do not call that man pathetic. You call him Dad. Or at the very least, you call him when you decide to cut him out of your wedding. I closed the laptop. They had made their choice. I was remembering mine. Men like me do not slam the door when we leave. We just make sure it locks behind us. Subject line: urgent booking cancellation request. That was all it said. I kept the email clean and dry. The kind of note you would get from a mid-level manager changing travel for a quarterly meeting. Not from a man quietly taking apart an ungrateful boy's tomorrow. I sent it to the concierge at the Caldera View Resort in Santorini, the place with volcanic cave suites and infinity pools that spill into the Aegean Sea. The same resort where Jake and his new wife plan to sip fancy drinks and post polished, #blessed videos with captions that thank the universe. For this trip, I was the universe. I attached the original confirmation, the booking number, and a short explanation. Please cancel the upcoming reservation under my name. I have initiated a chargeback for the deposit. No further contact is required. That was it. No threats. No fireworks. Just a clean cut. Then I opened a new tab and pulled up the contact address for my estate lawyer. His name is David Brooks. David is not flashy. He is thorough. He highlights every sentence of a contract like it is scripture. My note to him was even shorter. David, please freeze the discretionary trust created for Jake while we reassess the beneficiary alignment. Prepare the paperwork to revoke future distributions. We will discuss long-term redirection next week. 2 sentences. That was enough. I did not need to explain why. David would not ask. The wording said everything. The cursor blinked a heartbeat longer than usual after I hit send, like the digital world understood what had shifted before the real world caught up. I leaned back in the chair with the warm whiskey in my hand and listened. The house was quiet. Then I heard heels tapping on the tile. Melissa came into the room, halfway through curling her hair. She stopped in the doorway and tilted her head like she expected to see me in a suit or shining my shoes. "Why are you not getting ready?" she asked, crisp and practiced, like there was a choreography I was ignoring. I did not turn. I took a sip. "I was not invited," I said, as flat and neutral as the invoice I had just canceled. She shifted her weight. That little twitch in the air when the script stops following the plan. That is what I saw on Melissa's face. A small, twitchy discomfort. They figured it would be tense if I showed up. "Tense," I said, just repeating the word back to her like a mirror. "Jake did not want drama on his big day," she added, like that made the picture cleaner. Like I was supposed to nod and thank them for sparing me the trouble of watching the ceremony I paid for. "Sure," I said, and clicked my laptop closed. She did not move. "You knew," I said after a beat. "You knew I was not on the guest list." Her lips parted, but nothing came out. Then, weaker, "It was not my decision." "You are his mother," I said, calm as if we were settling a fence line. "You make every decision." She folded her arms and sighed, like I was the one making a scene. "You are making this about you. This is their moment. Not everything has to be a struggle for control." That made me smile, but not the warm kind I used to give when Jake brought home a report card, or when Melissa oversalted the meatloaf, and we all pretended it was fine. This was a different smile. The kind you make when someone is holding a lit match while standing in a puddle of gasoline and lecturing you about manners. I stood up, walked past her, and dropped my empty glass into the sink with just enough weight to let the sound hang in the kitchen. "No struggle here," I said. "They already won, remember? I'm just stepping out of the way." That night, I did not hear from Jake. I did not hear from Melissa. I did not hear from anyone. But somewhere across the ocean, a luxury resort in Greece was opening up a calendar slot, and a trust account with 6 figures was icing over like a pond in early winter. They would not know it yet. Not until after the vows, the champagne, the cake cutting, and all the toasts about family and loyalty and fresh starts. That is when the emails would land. That is when the honeymoon would vanish. And the silence I was serving would make more noise than any speech I could have given. I was not there, but the story made its way back to me in crisp detail, the kind that sticks. Picture this: string lights stretched over a courtyard, crystal glassware throwing warm amber from a rented chandelier, and an overconfident disc jockey queuing up a playlist literally labeled Luxury Vibes. Guests glowed with champagne confidence, smug with the idea that this was the start of something perfect. Jake looked happy. Nervous, sure, but happy. His tie already loose. His smile big. His hand welded to the waist of his new wife, Emily. She was beautiful in a way money cannot fake, though money sure helps keep it going. The photographers could not take enough pictures. Then it happened. Dessert time. A chocolate tower taller than the flower girl. The event planner approached their table, pale and careful, clinging to her tablet like a shield. "Mr. and Mrs. Cole?" she asked quietly. "The resort in Santorini is on the phone. They need a quick confirmation." Jake, still floating on post-toast bubbles, grinned. "That is fine. I can talk to them now." He took the call. He leaned back in his chair and laughed at something the best man said. The laughter stopped first, then the posture, then the jaw, then the smile. It all folded up fast, and suddenly he looked like a kid again. Emily leaned in. "What is wrong?" Jake swallowed. The whole table went quiet. Somewhere else, a champagne bottle hissed as the cork eased loose. "They said the reservation has been canceled," he said, voice low. "Something about a chargeback." Emily blinked. "Wait, what?" "The card holder reversed the payment," he said. "They cannot honor the booking." "The card holder?" she repeated, slow and sharp. "Your father paid for this." He did not answer. He just stared at the phone, scrolling as if refreshing the screen could pull a lost paradise back into the world. She waited, one hand on his shoulder. "Jake, say something." He finally looked up, pale. He must have. She cut him off, her voice slicing through the music like a blade. "You told me it was already paid for." Jake tried to hush it down. It was. She stood. "You mean your stepfather paid for our honeymoon, and now what? He just took it back?" Guests nearby shifted in their seats. The disc jockey, poor soul, felt the energy drop and jerked from a slow love song into a peppy pop track. The new father-in-law laughed too loud at nothing in particular. It did not matter. Emily did not care who heard. This is humiliating, she hissed, her voice shaking with that special kind of anger that grows out of pure entitlement. You said everything was handled. I will fix it, Jake muttered. It is probably a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? She laughed, hard and brittle, the kind of sound that cracks right through a dance floor. You mean your pathetic stepfather just ruined our honeymoon, and you are calling it a misunderstanding? That word, pathetic, the same word that had been whispered over wine and pity, the same word that traveled all the way around and found its place under the lights. Jake's ears went red. His hands shook. Emily, please. But she was already moving, white heels snapping across the marble, every eye on her back. She slipped out the side door, her train snagging on a chair. Her mother chased her like a stagehand trying to save a play that is already falling down. The photographer kept taking pictures, because that is what he knew how to do. Jake sat there alone, frozen. The best man mumbled something about needing a cigarette and drifted off into the shadows. Whispers started up. What happened? One voice asked. Another said, didn't his father pay for the trip? The sound spread like static, thin, but it did not stop. The coordinator bent toward the table, hands tied on her tablet. Sir, would you like me to save the cake for later? She asked, voice shaking. Jake did not answer. Meanwhile, a few miles away in a quiet suburban study, I poured myself another drink and watched a local news puff piece about a beautiful young couple getting married in high style. They did not know that the honeymoon suite they had been bragging about was already booked for somebody else. While their guests kept clinking glasses and pretending not to notice the missing bride, the first domino had already tipped. Jake just did not know it yet. This was not the end of his embarrassment. It was the start. The call came just after sunset, long after the fireworks at the reception had blown through. I was back in the den. Same chair, same drink, same steady quiet. When my phone buzzed, I did not hurry. The name on the screen told me everything. Ryan, my brother-in-law. I let it ring twice and picked up like I was answering a survey. Yes, I said. Just that. The line was tight. Behind him, I heard doors thumping, voices muffled, someone crying. Then Ryan spoke, a man who had just been handed a problem he never thought would land in his lap. Mike, what in the world did you do? I did not answer. They are panicking, he said louder now. Your wife is yelling at the coordinator like it is her wedding, and Jake is on the phone with the bank trying to figure out why their honeymoon vanished from the system. I took a slow drink and let the pause hang long enough to make clear I was not rushed. Is that so? I said finally. Yeah, it is, Ryan snapped. And I am standing here watching the whole thing spin out. You could not just let them have their day? I let that verb sit there. Have. As if I had not given Jake every day that led to this one. Ryan has always been the peacemaker in the family. The guy who brings 2 bottles of wine to Thanksgiving even though he only drinks 1. The kind who thinks it will blow over counts as a plan. They did not invite me, Ryan, I said, voice flat. Not bitter. Not sarcastic. Just still. He sighed, like I was the one being difficult. You know how weddings are. Emotions run high. They probably just did not want tension. They did not want me, I said. Let us not dress it up as noble. Silence. Then, softer. Look, I know it has not been fair. That line stopped me, not because I disagreed, though I did agree, but because I did not expect anyone on her side to say it out loud. You stepped up, he went on, stumbling a little. We all know that. Maybe they did not know how to say thank you. Maybe it got lost in the noise. They are kids, Mike. They are married, I said. They are not kids anymore. They made adult choices. Now they can sit with them. You are punishing them, Ryan muttered. No, I said. I am correcting a financial oversight. You froze the trust. Correct. And the honeymoon, unbooked, reallocated. Correct. Good Lord, he whispered. I could picture him pacing in the corner of the venue, tie loosened, one hand to his temple, like he could press the embarrassment back into place. I'm just saying, maybe talk to them. Hear them out. I stood and looked through the window at the yard I have mowed for 15 years. My eyes landed on the old tree where Jake once started a tree house and quit halfway through. I finished it myself. Never told him. Let him take the credit when his friends came over. Ryan, I said, tone even. They already spoke. They spoke with silence, with that message, with that guest list. He did not answer. I heard voices calling his name in the background, probably Melissa, asking if he had handled it. They are just outside, he said. They are talking to the event coordinator, trying to find some way to fix this. Emily is falling apart. Jake is asking if there is any chance of a refund. It is a mess. Not my mess, I said. He paused. You are really going to let it burn like this? I finished my drink and stared at the wet ring on the table. They already lit the match, I said. I am just watching where it lands. Another long silence. I did not fill it. Finally, Ryan exhaled. All right. But do not let this make you bitter. You are better than that. I hung up without a word. For the first time in 2 days, I felt something close to peace. Not joy, not payback, just quiet. Because inside that glittering party, panic was blooming, and the man they thought would just take it was no longer playing by their rules. It started loud and showy, full of the false confidence that comes from money and a complete lack of respect for contracts. Emily's father, let us call him Richard Thompson, retired dentist, country club talker, forever wearing a Bluetooth earpiece, stood in a corner of the reception hall, barking into his phone. His tie had slid over one shoulder like it was trying to leave the conversation. No, absolutely not, he said, loud enough that even the catering staff slowed down to listen. There has been a mistake. You do not cancel a 5-figure honeymoon without authorization. On the other end, a junior associate from some boutique law firm tried to keep up. He probably dialed from a contact saved as golf, legal. I can hear it even now. A young voice on the other end trying to sound grown. Then Richard barked. Revocable at the grantor's discretion? What in the world does that mean? It was a gift. A pause. Another pause. Then, hotter, he can do what? Across the room, Jake was slumped in a chair, suit jacket bunched under him like it was trying to choke him. His phone lay on the table, open to an email chain he had never fully read. Too many words. Too many clauses. Last year, when the trust was set up, he skimmed it and figured it was ceremonial. It never crossed his mind that the man who signed checks could also unsign them. Emily had locked herself in the bridal suite. Her mother stood outside, red-faced and panting, demanding a fix right now. Nobody had the heart to tell her there was no fix she would like. The best man shuffled over with a glass of whiskey, aiming for jokes. Man, honeymoons are overrated. You know what is better? Staying home, ordering pizza, just relaxing. Jake did not blink. Richard slammed his phone onto the table and turned to his wife. He revoked it. The whole thing. The clause is airtight. It is a discretionary trust. It was never locked. Think of it like he rented the money instead of giving it. Well, can we challenge it? She hissed. In what court? Richard snapped. It is not fraud. It is his fund. He is the sole trustee and the grantor. It was never transferred. He was letting the kid ride it. The mother-in-law blinked like someone had thrown cold water in her face. What about scholarships? What about tuition? What about the car repairs and the down payment for next year's apartment? Richard checked his phone again. I will have someone look. But if he tied all of it to his name? Jake finally spoke, voice thin. He would not take it all back. He would not do that. Richard turned slowly. Son, I have known a lot of men. Every man has a line. You might not see it until you are miles past it, but once you step over it, he pointed toward the lavender-draped arch. You are not walking back. At the bar, the planner quit pretending things were normal. She pulled up the resort email on her tablet computer and showed her assistant the chargeback notice that had hit just after noon. See? It was paid with a personal card, not a business account, not a trust, not even a joint account. The assistant nodded, eyes wide. So the guy is the groom's father? Stepfather, the planner said. Technically, but he looks like the only one who read the paperwork. Meanwhile, another call went out. Emily's older brother, a junior advisor who thought fiduciary just meant expensive, flipped through the scholarship files Jake had emailed months back and winced. Yeah, this is not good. What? Emily's mother snapped. It is all under Mike's name, he said. He is listed as guarantor, co-signer, and primary contact. Tuition loans, housing subsidy, even the book stipend. If he steps out, he did not have to finish. Back at the bridal suite, the door opened. Emily came out with makeup streaked and fury held tight on a short leash. He did this to humiliate us, she said. He waited until the wedding day to make his point. Her mother tried to soothe her. He will calm down. He raised Jake. He is just hurt. No, Emily said, cold as glass. He is calculating. That was the first clear truth of the night. The man she mocked in private, the man whose name she would not allow on the invitations, the man she labeled a placeholder. He was the one unspooling her runway with a few polite, legally precise sentences. The real money did not arrive with a ribbon. It arrived with conditions. For the first time in her curated life, She learned what happens when those conditions change. I heard tires on gravel, faint but familiar. I did not look up right away. I was in the study, sitting in the same leather chair, sipping a fresh drink, the television on mute. A documentary about mountain lions played in the background, quiet hunters that wait, patient, letting the prey step closer. The security chime pinged. Motion at the gate. I picked up the remote and opened the split-screen camera feed. One sport utility vehicle. 5 figures. Jake was driving. His hands gripped the top of the wheel like he was bracing for a crash. Emily stared straight ahead, makeup smudged, jaw locked, eyes hollow from public embarrassment. In the back seat, Melissa leaned forward, talking fast, hands fluttering. Same look she wore when the Thanksgiving turkey smoked too much or when Jake skinned his knee. Desperate to control the moment. Desperate to stay blameless. A second car rolled in behind them. 2 men in suits climbed out with leather briefcases. The kind people summon when words fail and money starts to panic. They gathered at the gate. The camera caught every angle. Jake pressed the intercom. His voice came through the speaker a little too loud, a little too tight. "Mike, please. We just want to talk." Jake pressed the intercom again. "Can we come in?" he asked. Emily cut a glance toward the second car. One of the attorneys flipped open a folder and ran his finger down a page like he was warming up for a sales pitch. Melissa stepped forward and pushed the call button herself. "Mike, honey, please. Let us be civil. Nobody wants this to turn ugly." I watched it all in real time. Calm. Quiet. The outcast sitting on the throne. I leaned back and rubbed the armrest with my thumb. Same chair where Jake once tried to convince me that switching majors for a 3rd time was part of the journey. Same chair where Melissa told me 8 years ago that helping raise Jake was a gift to both of us. Now they stood at my gate like strangers. Jake pressed the button again. "I know this got out of hand, but we can fix it. You do not have to do this." He was sweating. Not from heat. From understanding. Emily turned and murmured to one of the lawyers. He nodded, stepped to the intercom, and spoke in his best calm voice. "Mr. Cole, my name is Evan Resnick. I represent the family's interests. I believe there has been a misunderstanding that would benefit from private resolution. We are not here to argue, only to clarify terms and discuss future arrangements." Future arrangements. That was rich. The future had already been rearranged. Emily's face cracked for a second. Not anger. Not defiance. Fear. She had assumed that marrying into a well-run family meant ease and access. She never read the fine print. Jake paced. Melissa tried my phone twice. I let it ring. No voicemail. The intercom buzzed again. "Mike, please," Jake said, voice breaking. "I messed up. We messed up. I did not mean to shut you out. I thought it would be easier without drama. We did not want to make anyone uncomfortable." Uncomfortable. That is the word people use when they want cruelty to sound polite. Not malicious, just uncomfortable. Funny thing was, I was not uncomfortable anymore. I felt at home. They stood at the gate for 12 full minutes. The lawyers huddled, then eased back toward their cars. One muttered something under his breath and motioned to leave. Emily shook her head like she could refuse reality by refusing to nod at it. Melissa folded her arms and scanned the windows like she expected me to appear with an apology and a handshake. I did not move, because what I had been waiting for was not revenge. It was this, watching them realize I was not an optional extra. I was not a worn-out placeholder they could step over on the way to a better life. I was the gatekeeper, and I did not even need to raise my voice. My phone rang again. Same name on the screen, Ryan. Same rhythm. 3 rings, a pause, then one more, like a man knocking on a locked door and hoping the door forgot why it was locked. I answered without a greeting and let the line breathe. His voice was low, like he had stepped away from the chaos to make the call. "Mike," he said. "They are still outside." I kept quiet. "She is crying," he said. "Emily, not the show kind," cracked open. "Jake is begging her to stay calm. Your wife is pacing like a trapped animal. They do not know what to do. They brought lawyers, Mike. Actual lawyers." I watched the camera feed. Emily had dropped to the curb, hands over her face. Melissa whispered into her phone, frantic, probably calling anyone who still thought I could be talked down. Jake argued with the attorney, waving his hands, coming apart. Ryan sighed into the receiver. "Look, I get it. I really do. I would not have blamed you if you had snapped. But this is scorched earth. They did not see it coming." "That is the problem," I said at last. "They never saw anything coming. They did not think they needed to." Ryan went quiet. "They had their lawyer when they made the guest list. I added. Let them talk to him. Click. I ended the call. No yelling. No lecture. Just a line drawn clean. Outside, the clouds shifted and the afternoon light went cold and gray. Emily stood, brushing off her dress with shaking hands. She kept glancing at the house like she expected time to run backward, like she could blink and erase the last 48 hours. But the window they pushed me out of did not come with a back door. Inside, I poured another drink. Not to celebrate. Habit. There is a calm that settles in when you stop explaining yourself to people who only listen if there is a price tag attached. Ryan did not call back. Neither did Jake. Neither did Melissa. I had always been the fixer, the one who smoothed things over and swallowed my pride in the name of family peace. But peace built on silence is just a slow collapse. I had cleaned up enough of their messes. This one was theirs to sit in, with the lawyers they brought, to the gate they shut me out of. I opened the front door slowly, on purpose, so they would hear it. The old brass hinge let out a long groan that quieted every voice outside. I did not step off the porch. I did not walk toward them. I stood there in the warm porch light, like a ghost they forgot to bury properly. Jake turned first. Up close, his face looked different. Older somehow, sharper under the weight of consequences. He took half a step toward me, then stopped, like it hit him too late that he did not really know the man on the porch anymore. Emily looked wrung out. She had been crying for hours. The dress that had started out picture-perfect was creased at the hem and stained along one sleeve. She did not speak. She just stared, torn between a chance and a reckoning. Melissa did not meet my eyes. She stood behind them, off to the side, like she could not decide whose team she was on. Mike, Jake said, voice breaking. We did not mean for it to go this far. We thought it would be easier if the wedding did not have. He cut himself off. Smart. He was about to say drama. He tried again. We wanted peace. A clean day. No tension. I nodded slowly. You wanted peace, I said. And you got silence. Emily blinked. That landed harder than if I had shouted. Jake opened his mouth, then closed it. I reached behind me and brought out a black folder. Not thick, just a few pages. Clean tabs. Quiet paper that does not need to raise its voice. I held it out. I did not step down. I did not explain. I just extended it like a last meal. He hesitated, then took it. He scanned the first page, then the second. He did not get past the third. His mouth opened a little. No sound, just air. Emily leaned in over his shoulder. What is this? Termination of obligations, I said. School costs. Travel. The apartment fund. Car insurance. Health stipend. All canceled. Revocations filed. Reallocations in motion. But the lease, Jake stammered. The fall semester. All under my name, I said. All funded by me. All optional. Emily turned to Melissa, pale. You said the trust could not be revoked. Melissa stepped forward. Mike, this is not you. You are not this cold. You are right, I said. I am not. I looked at Jake. But apparently I can learn. The quiet that followed did not feel like an awkward pause. It felt like a verdict. You always said you raised me like your own, Jake said, almost a whisper. I did, I said, until you made it clear I was not. He flinched. Emily tugged his sleeve. We should go, she said, but he did not move. I did not know, he said. I did not think it would be this serious. That is the problem, I said. You never had to think. I set my hand on the doorknob. Now you will. The door did not slam. It clicked. Quiet. Certain. Final. Through the glass I watched them stand there, silent, like statues in a garden that never took root. No yelling. No threats. No pleas. Just the kind of silence you do not come back from. The moving truck rolled up a little after 8 o'clock in the morning. On the dot. Efficient. The same company I had hired a dozen times for furniture swaps and junk runs. This time was different. This time was subtraction. I stood at the end of the driveway with a cup of coffee and watched the crew carry the boxes I had packed myself. Clear marker on every side. Books, winter clothes, old gaming gear, miscellaneous. I even added a box of stray cords, chargers, and adapters that Jake never bothered to sort. The last drawer of a young man's life. Knotted cables and half-charged batteries. One mover asked where it was headed. I gave him the address I knew too well, the place Jake and Emily had picked for their fresh start. I had paid the deposit 6 months ago. It was supposed to be a wedding gift, a launch pad. Now it would be a landing strip for a crash they never saw coming. When the truck pulled away, I stood alone for another minute and let the early October breeze move across my shirt. It smelled like pine and old promises. Then I went inside and made a call. David, I said when my attorney answered, I want to reallocate the remaining balance from Jake's trust. To where? David Brooks asked. The Veterans Grant Fund we discussed last year. He paused, respectful. Are you sure? Jake is out. Yes, I said. No wobble in my voice. Just fact. David exhaled. All right. I will process it this morning and send updated documents. That is roughly $78,000 remaining. I will structure the donation across 4 semesters for the best tax treatment. Sounds good, I said. Do it. I hung up. That afternoon, a small brown package arrived. No return address. Just my name in soft black ink. I carried it to the kitchen, slid a paring knife under the tape, and opened the flaps like I already knew. A photograph. Jake, about 10 years old, asleep against my shoulder. One glove still on his hand. Dirt smudged across his cheek. His first baseball game. He had struck out twice and cried in the dugout. I told him nobody remembers the strikeouts. They remember who showed up. He fell asleep on the ride home. I left the radio off and let the quiet fill the cab while he snored soft and even beside me. I stared at the picture for a long time. Then I walked out back, lit the fire pit, and watched the edges curl. It did not burn fast. Thick paper. Good print. Built to last. But nothing lasts unless somebody protects it. Nobody protected me. Not when the invitations were run. Not when the guest list was trimmed. Not when my name got quietly edited out of speeches, mentions, and memories. So I made an edit of my own. No anger. No scene. No headline. Just a last deletion. I did not attend their wedding. They would not be attending the rest of my life. There was no press release. No teary showdown. No tidy redemption arc. Just a door that stayed shut and a silence that put down roots. The kind of silence that makes even lawyers stumble. The kind that reshapes futures. The kind that echoes. I sat back in my chair, refilled my glass, and opened a new file on my laptop. 2025 personal budget, revised. Men you call pathetic do not build empires. But they do know when to walk away and let the begging happen on the other side of the gate.